I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Hello.
Why, hello.
Hello.
Did I get them all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There we go. Hello. Hi. Everything's fine. Welcome to Season 24, Episode 8 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Tappy.
And I'm Dave77.
You're quiet. Yeah, your mic's good. All right.
Look at my nipple.
Yes. Right. In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, Midas from Adelaide writes in to defend D&D classes. Jim Toe asks about parting with gaming materials and regrets. Joe Crack asks, is detective noir a playable genre? And Taylin sends a 10th anniversary message to her husband, Daniel. Aww.
That's nice.
But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. And we're on social media. We have a forum, happyjacksforum.com. happyjacksforum.com. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and MeWe. HappyJacksRPG. All one word. All of those.
Oh,
And also, if you'd like to watch the show live, you can go to happyjacks.org/live, and we stream the show Fridays at 7 p.m.-ish Pacific Daylight Time.
And Twitch.
And Twitch. But happyjacks.org/live takes you to all of those things.
True.
Now, how's your Kickstarter going?
Oh,
Very
why,
exciting.
thank you. Yes.
I mentioned it last week.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. The Kickstarter's doing quite well. We funded, and that's very nice.
Yeah.
But for those
Awesome.
of you who've been living under a rock, so Monkey Fun Studios just recently did a Kickstarter, or is doing a Kickstarter, for our new game, A Town Called Malice.
yes.
And that is Nordic horror and small town isolation. So
Excellent.
it's Twin Peaks, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Dark, if you've seen the Netflix series.
Yes.
It's very much in there. Fortitude, great series that I love. And so all those things are in there now. And right now we're going to our next stretch goal, which is going to include Station to Station, where it takes place on a mining colony outside of Jupiter.
Nice.
And then also Season of the Witch, which is kind of a Blair Witch type of scenario. So if you are interested, definitely check us out on Kickstarter or our website at monkeyfunstudios.com.
Very
Bam.
exciting.
Boom!
Yep. I backed it. I'm very excited. It's very cool.
I'm going to back it. I haven't yet.
And you, this is one of the ones you beta tested when we did our Rainbow Railroading.
Yes, and actually that
Yeah.
video is on the Kickstarter page.
Yeah.
'Cause I really thought that was a good playtest. It was a really good scenario because even though most of the people, it was the introduction for everybody at the table, everybody picked it up very quickly and everybody really got into their role, and it allowed Stork to embrace his inner, Swede or
Yes.
whatever that accent
He
was,
likes
his
it.
Norwegian voice.
He's been doing it ever since then. Like all the games, he keeps picking people from that part of the world since that game. It's like
so
the
it
inspiration.
was a really good game, and so I'm really happy with it. Different than what we did before. It's not quite as zany and off the wall as like Spirit of 77 or how Bedlam Hall can be in a nightmarish sort of way.
Right.
So it's
Very
good.
cool. Nice.
Awesome. Excellent.
We also have JackerCon coming up in June.
That's right.
So go to
Yes.
JackerCon is our online fan-run convention. And you can sign up for games, you can sign up to run games, you can sign up to playing games. There are people from all over the world, so all different time zones. So there's ones happening wherever you live. There's probably one happening at a time. You can do it. If you go to jackercon.com, you can go and sign up there, make an account. There's also a Discord, which I think they have a link on the thing, and that's going to be June 23rd to the 20th.
to July 1st.
July, yeah.
And there's 49 days, 20 hours, and 35 minutes left before it starts.
Yes.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Jackoff-Con, which is something completely
different, and
Right.
we're not associated with that. I mean, some of us might participate.
We
but
may have attended. Jackercon.com is the thing to register for it and sign up and all that shit. Did you say that?
Yeah,
I didn't hear you say
That's
that.
fine.
I was waiting for you to say it, and I didn't think you did.
it's okay. I'm a woman. Don't listen to me.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. Fucking Christ. Start with that shit. All right. Well, would you mind getting me a beer since you're already there?
We have 2 beers already.
I'm going to need a third, apparently.
Yes.
All right.
I've started already.
In defense of D&D, well, classes really, from Midas in Adelaide.
I like Adelaide.
Go ahead and do
That's
this
a
in
good
your
name.
You think is Adelaide,
accent?
Texas?
They don't like it when I do the accent.
Maybe.
Even though Siri recognizes it just fine.
Wait, who
She's
doesn't like
listening
it?
to everything.
I don't
else you
actually
say.
know that for sure. I
Okay.
just assume that.
All right.
It's just when I do the accent, Australian numbers go down. Hey, Stu and the Jacker crew. Midas here from Adelaide. Just one-
Australians are offended. That's funny.
Just wanted to throw in my 2 cents to this grim, encrusted well of nerd sweat and rage. On season 51, episode 43, or whenever you guys brought it up, you mentioned how you as hosts are unable to see a reason for classes in your RPGs. Multiple times this topic has come up, and many a time with many different people, it's all come to the same conclusion: we don't need classes at all. That's not true, because Joey was here for an episode and defended it tenaciously.
Vehemently, yes.
And
Concept
that was
of classes, or just for your classes in D&D?
the concept of classes.
Okay.
Well, he was specifically taught. That was specifically about D&D,
Sure.
so I don't know.
If you're going to defend D&D classes, though, I'm pretty sure you're probably fine with it in every other game.
Probably. I hear time and time again you talking about systems like Wild Talents, GURPS, and Savage Worlds, to name a few, as better games purely because they have more customized character progression system in them, and that having such a restrictive class system like D&D is such a hindrance to gameplay. I cannot explain how much I want to scream into my headphones. Don't scream into your headphones. It actually does no good.
Screaming to a mic.
Yes. The answer, but instead I thought I'd take the time and carefully write out my response to your opinions. The reason D&D is so popular and why the class system is needed is because it's easy. You level up, you gain hit points, a class feature, maybe some spells. A paragraph of text tells you this cool ability and now that you can now do, and that is it. No more need for you to assign points where you want to get better and ultra customize yourself. It's just XP, level up, and go. As a person who has to introduce new people to role-playing games quite a lot, D&D has made itself benefit from the fact that it's stuck to the class system. Each class represents your favorite archetype from fantasy. If I say the word ranger, most people will think of Aragorn or Legolas. Is Legolas a ranger too?
He uses a bow. Only
Yeah.
rangers use bows. Didn't you know? Because it's a class system. Sorry.
If I say paladin, most people think of King Arthur or Teutonic Knights of the Crusade. I think of Michael from Dresden Files.
Yes.
I think that's the
best paladin
best
ever.
paladin in the world.
Yeah.
I think of Richard Boone.
Who's Richard Boone?
He's played Never mind. Go on.
Oh, is that
I'm this stork. He gets these jokes.
the have gun will travel
Yes,
is the
thank
heart.
you.
Okay.
No idea what you're talking about.
It's an
there.
old TV show. If I say wizard, Gandalf or any other wizard from pop culture will spring up. Except wizards in D&D aren't as badass as Gandalf. If I say monk, then people who like anime start telling me about their favorite anime characters, and I immediately regret bringing it up. Or they think of Jackie Chan. I think of...
Xiao Yun Fat, who was in Bulletproof Monk.
oh, yeah. There you go. I was thinking
I think of Fatty Dragon.
I don't know.
Fat Dragon? That's Sammo Hung.
Oh, no, Sammo Hung, yeah.
Yeah, Sammo Hung. He's one of the three brothers. Jackie Chan, Yin Bu, and Sammo Hung. There are three.
I know
guys
the
who-
name, but I can't remember...
He had a TV series for a while.
Yeah, he was like a kung fu cop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or they think of Jackie Chan.
With this one
One sentence character association, it allows you to get into character. Well, it wasn't capitalized, so I was confused. To get into character that you like a lot easier and start playing the game for fun faster. His punctuation is starting to. I think he was drinking when he wrote this.
God bless.
His punctuation is starting to decline. I've handed Shadowrun characters and one roll engine characters to people, and have had them take a while to role play, and are always a little more hesitant. But the moment I pass a D&D sheet to them and say it's a human fighter who has an enchanted sword, think Jon Snow. We were just having a conversation about
So
that.
they just do nothing.
He does nothing, and everything just falls in his lap. Yay, we're making you king!
You just didn't do anything except exactly what you shouldn't do.
Right.
Hooray, you're king.
Think Jon Snow, and the lights immediately light up, and they know what's going on. I'm all for customization and verisimilitude.
That's a vampire discipline.
Wait.
But some
No,
days,
that's a color.
Oh,
but
that's a
some,
type of spaghetti.
right. But some days I just want to get together with friends and not need to worry about all the complexities other systems bring. Even those hippie games tend to make me get a little more exhausted to play, as they require more narrative adaptation, as every role will change the game and you need to be participating as well. Some days the paladin just wants to roll dice and smite the big bad evil thing because it burnt down the orphanage for no reason. So to sum up, D&D classes have a place in RPGs, as it is easy, and that ease breeds fun, and add more flair and customization later to find a level you're comfortable with. Now, for the love of God, just call it what it is. Easy fun, and accept that it has a place amongst other games you all play. Tropes are good, classes are the tropes, which makes my life as a GM easier. Question for you all then. What is the archetype class you always gravitate towards as a player? Apologies for the length, but when you've been holding back on unloading for so long, believe me, I had diverticulitis. I know all about that.
Steady.
Sorry for the length, but I've been holding this back for quite some time. Just say when.
It tends to build up and explode. Yeah. Wait, what was I talking about? Right?
That was a dick
yes.
joke.
Screw you all and have a wonderful day. Your weekly show never fails to bring light to my non-alcohol filled heart.
Whoa, he doesn't drink!
What happened to your dude? What happened to your punctuation?
He just got like passionate as he was typing.
I'm too furious for apostrophes.
Yeah, exactly.
Drink.
Huzzah! You're right. We know you're right.
Oh, it's a whole preference thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why like we talk a lot about how D&D is kind of like the gateway to RPGs, and I think that's one of the reasons it is, because one, it's the easiest to have access to, because it's the thing most people play.
Maybe.
And then
It is the thing most people play.
yeah.
Yes, that's true.
But then when you sit down at the table, you can be like, okay, this is who you are. It's not, well, here's a bunch of decisions now you have to make. Like, you do have to make decisions, but it's like you have the basic layout there. So it is a good starting place as far as classes.
Fuck this. That's my opinion. Boy, there's a lot to unpack here, other than just it's easy and fun. First of all, I'd be I don't know if I ever said personally that the only reason D&D sucks is that, compared to something like Savage Worlds, is that it has classes. Like, that's kind of a big thing to like put forward on like the podcast. Maybe some people made fun of it for that.
Oh, my problem I'm on record saying that I've many other bigger problems with D&D than classes.
Yes. And so, like, I understand where you're saying it's like, it's easy, new people get into it, and it's fun. Except that that's not necessarily true. Like, I'm going to go to what archetype class do you gravitate to? Weirdos. Like, I don't like to play things that I do not want to play Jon Snow. I do not want to play Legolas. Like, I don't want to play Aragorn. Like, that all just bores the ever-living shit out of me. So if you're like, you are a ranger, here's your bow, here are your two scimitars. One is fire, the other one is ice.
Right.
I'm completely uninterested. So, like, when you start with a class like Thief or something, becoming a weirdo takes a while. Like I had my character Dor, who was a warden who thought he was a cleric.
Right, of Bahamut.
That's fun. But it took me a while to actually and also it's 4th edition, so you're only kind of like multi-class sort of.
Right, but I think
Everyone's a Jedi.
like that's really good points for how you like to play.
No, but that's what this is like. These are truths. People like tropes. That is not a truth. There are many people who don't like tropes or like to turn tropes on their head.
Right, but I don't know necessarily if that's definitely like something people, when they're trying something new, they like something that's familiar and that they can, like, I mean, maybe you're just braver than most people.
I'm
but
just
I know
I'm just a
you're
weirdo.
just weirdo. You want to be on brand. I get it. But I think that I don't think that is something you can deny, is that is part of like not everybody, but a huge portion of the population, when they are trying something new, they like to be familiar with it and in a space they're comfortable. If having a class makes them more comfortable because they got, okay, I know who the character is, kind of, now I can like figure out the math part of this weird new thing I'm trying. Like that, there's a level of comfort there.
I just think it's kind of boring.
I don't even know if for a brand new player coming in, if it's necessarily an advantage. For some players, I think it probably is. But there are some people who are like, I want to play this. Okay, well, that doesn't exist. You have to play... You're describing something that doesn't exist in the game.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to be either... You can be a fighter, or you can be a ranger.
See, I'm not sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an advantage. I think it's a security blanket.
But I don't.
Which is a different thing, because if it's an advantage, like I think most people could jump into most RPGs. Like I think honestly, PBTA is a much simpler game to get your head around as far as playing for someone who's just new coming in, because there's less mechanics, things like that. But I think that coming into something that seems super familiar. Like, hey, you're going to be Gandalf, or think of somebody, like there's a very clear picture of who they're going to be when they have that image in their head and they have that kind of model for them.
I don't know if things like wizards and rangers and stuff are familiar, you probably are not like a noob when it comes to the fantasy genre. And like by the time I started role playing, I had read a metric fuck ton of fantasy books. To the point where I still want to do something. I've gotten so many ideas from so many different worlds in so many different places of what would be cool to be when you put yourself in all of those different books, and then like, you are a fighter with a sword. Like, well, can I be like a fighter who does something different? Yeah, you got to level up for that.
Yeah, I think I think you're right for some players, but I think there's other players who are like, I don't know. I mean, fantasy is a more limited genre, but if they were playing a superhero game and you were playing, because there are superhero games with classes. What's the one I'm thinking of? Mutants Mastermind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Masks has played.
Okay. So, but someone comes up who's maybe a fan of comic books and of the superhero genre, to come into role playing for the first time, and I have always had this character in mind. I want to make this character. Well, you might be able to make that character in those classes. You might not. Mm-hmm. But you go find a game with more flexible character creation, and then you can say, okay, you can design it exactly the way you want. If you want it to be very samey as everything else, you use Savage Worlds. Mm-hmm. If you want it to be overcomplicated and use a lot of math, you use Champions.
Hero.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just the numbers here. I mean, we can't deny, like, D&D is the biggest role-playing game, like tabletop role-playing game.
Is that because it's good?
No, I'm not saying whether it's good or not, because I don't particularly love D&D personally. But I'm saying because it has appeal to people. Like, it is the cheese and pepperoni pizza that is the staple of most parties, and that it may not be your favorite kind of pizza, but it's there and it's solid.
Some of us see cheese and pepperoni. Some of us see Canadian bacon and pineapple.
Not but
I love pineapple pizza.
But I mean, just by the sheer number of people who play tabletop RPGs altogether, and the percentage of people in that who play D&D, including us sometimes still.
Yeah.
Like, there is a draw, there is an appeal there, and that is like tied up with the whole system, incling classes.
I have a tough.
Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to take a look at it from a different angle, which is that it's not just based off of individual players, but it's also talking about player groups. Because it's one game when you say, it's one game to say, okay, I'm playing the fighter and you're playing the thief and you're playing the wizard and you're doing that. But if we were all playing if we were all playing halflings, okay, that's definitely a game, and that's going to be a very specific type of game, but it doesn't have universal kind of options to people when you have basically a spread of different types that are there. And not to say that having all monks in one game is bad, or something like that. It's perfectly fine, but it's not it's not easy. As a GM, that's tricky. You have to change the game quite a bit, because that there are going to be certain things that a group of halflings aren't going to be able to get, like doorknobs. And so the point is that by
Or
everyone
having
jars
high
up
shelf.
of high shelves.
yeah, you can get rid of the ring, but you have to put it up there. No. But the point is that looking at it from a bigger perspective, you need to have different skill sets to have a more well-rounded type of game group.
Sure.
That's when we were putting together Spirit of 77, available through Drive-Thru RPG. There were very specific. Hey, man, come on. There's certain
We are not
roles
judging.
that
No.
are necessary. It's like, okay, we knew that we were going to have, the fighter. We knew we were going to have somebody who was going to do the investigation work. And by having those kinds of classes, it made it a lot easier, not just for people to say, okay, I know what I'm going to play, but it also means, okay, I know what the group is going to do. Oh, we have to figure out, how we're going to, who shot this guy. Let's talk to the sleuth. Let's talk to Kimmy. She's the one who's the sleuth, so we're going to let her do it. Now, that doesn't mean, the fighter or, the tough guy in Spirit of 77 terms can't do that, but you know that when that happens, you're going to have antics ensue. And it's the same thing with D&D. It's to say, okay, we're going to have the barbarian use his charisma to go try to talk to the town guard to let us through. And on one hand, it's perfectly allowable. On the other hand, nobody in their right mind thinks this is not going to have antics occur because of it.
Sure.
Right? It's going to be an interesting story. And there's nothing wrong with that. But having those types of classifications makes it a more balanced group dynamic as opposed to just individual players.
I think it also makes it really easy for people because so many people now have played some type of video game. It makes it really easy for people who've played video games to step into those roles in group dynamics and in combat and still be effective. Right. Like, hey, I'm the tank, I'm the so-and-so. Like, so many games now, even if you're not a WoW player or something, like you've played games where you've had those different roles. Just about everything has that. You're the support, you're the healer, you're the tank. So many things. So I think it's easy for people who are familiar with that to step in and know what they're supposed to do in a battle, even if they've never done it before.
I do want to answer Midas's question, and you're probably going to laugh, but my favorite class in D&D is cleric. I like playing clerics.
That's cool.
My favorite character archetype doesn't exist in D&D.
I'm sure there's grumpy old
Grumpy
bastards
Magic.
in D&D.
Damn it, you took it.
No.
I'm sorry. I know. Set it up. Mine.
Face characters.
What's that?
Face characters.
Yeah.
Bard.
Don't say bard. No, bard's not a face character. Bard's bard. I'm not. That's a spell thrower. I don't want to be a spell thrower. I want to talk my way out of shit. They're spellcasters,
But
aren't
they
they?
also have really high charisma and stuff, don't they? So you can. One does not.
No, you have high charisma because they use that for your spells, just like warlocks.
Right, but
Right.
you don't.
Warlocks can be talky, but they're also spellcasters. I totally see where Steve's coming from.
I would love to
There is
see
no.
you
There
wanna-
is no
You
face
just
character.
want to be a face character that has no powers.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the A-Team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
Face.
I had a character that was all of
That's
them.
where the term comes from. Face. They called him Face.
I mean, you could probably make yourself a bard that just wasn't good at any magic stuff.
Well, no, but if you have a high charisma, you are good at magic stuff by default. You can't make yourself not good at it if you have a high charisma, and that's
you can
part
just
of the
not
problem.
cast yourself. Like, I feel like that's like getting super picky because
I'm just
Is
saying
it
it's
though?
a character class that doesn't exist.
but that's a role playing choice. So you can be like, I'm not good at spells. Well, you are in your character sheet
But-
mathematically. Okay, well, I'm just not going to
Okay,
use them because
so
I'm going to
In
be
any
not.
point-based game system, I can build a face character who's an effective face character.
I mean, I'm
I believe
not saying
Spirit of
they're
77 has one.
Right.
But actually, no. So this is a very interesting segue. So I had a conversation with John Wick, not Keanu Reeves, but the guy who did Seven Seas. And one of his conversation starters, more like argument starters, is the concept that D&D is not a real role-playing game. And because...
I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying I espouse this or agree
man,
with that.
I can totally see him saying that.
But
Right.
the fact that basically for exactly what you're saying, where because the game itself, the system does not lend itself to charisma or social interactions. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it, 100%, but I am saying that is something that other people have mentioned about
Right.
D&D, the fact that is a deficiency in the
Well,
overall
I mean,
character.
there are.
system.
I'm sure in that list of 15 skills there are social skills. I'm
Yeah.
sure there are.
Yes.
It just doesn't lend itself well to
No,
it, is what he's saying.
no, and there is no class that it's like I just want to do this. I want to like just talk to people and convince them to do what I want them to do. That's all I do, and I'm really good at it. And that class doesn't exist.
Prostitute.
I mean, it's probably. I mean, it probably exists somewhere. There's so many splat things, and people have made their own
Oh,
classes. and all
well,
that
in
stuff.
5th edition, there's almost no splat books.
Well, that's why. But people.
I mean, if
have
you go
made
back,
their
if you
own
go back,
classes.
yes.
Well, you can also look online because a bunch of
If
people.
I'm gonna make my own class, why don't I just play a game that will just support the character concept I
Yeah.
want to make?
Well, you
Because
can
you're
do
not
that
a
too.
new character. New players don't necessarily make their own character.
And I
classes.
don't. And see, the thing is, and that's
No,
the
but they're
thing.
online. Like people have made them for you. You just download it and print it out.
Yeah,
and
because
it's a
they're
thing.
totally balanced, and you can trust that.
I don't know.
I don't think new players are going to worry about that either.
But why, as a GM, would you allow that?
Because you do, because you want to say yes and.
But
This is
all
why
easy.
Blue Apron
But
didn't work.
This is
for
why
you.
it's
like,
supposed to be easy.
I could go get this myself.
You know, it's like, so it's like once you start like
Right.
something being easy necessarily limits choice,
yeah,
right?
I'm not arguing that.
And so,
I think that helps people. Some people don't
So-
want all the choice.
and some
Some.
people do, and
Right.
so this is saying what I'm reading here is all people when they are first starting out want hand holding.
I don't think they said that at all.
Do tell.
I mean, I think they're saying like it's easy and people like
The class
that.
season system is needed
Yeah,
because it is easy.
right.
And no, it is not needed because it is easy.
there are some
because
people who need it to be easy.
Yes, but it is not needed for everybody.
It doesn't say for everybody in the email. It just says needed. There are some people who need it,
Right.
so
That-
it is
which
needed.
is that was the point I was bringing up earlier. Is the fact that I think there are some new players who are going to have a preference towards archetypes, and there are other players who are not.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can make a blanket statement saying that if you have new people, you should be teaching them D&D, or that class systems are better for new players. I don't think that's necessarily true.
And that is what I am reading here. I am.
Well, he's
reading here.
he's also taking a very extreme position because he feels that there's a void of this opinion.
Well, and-
Which
Well, I mean, there are lots of games that have class systems that I like. I really like Apocalypse World. That has playbooks.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing about that one is that there are definite choices in it that you can make. But also, you gain new abilities very quickly, and it's built into it that you can grab like moves from other playbooks. So you very quickly blossom out into a very different type of character than the one that you had 2 or 3 sessions ago.
Right.
As opposed to D&D, it feels like you don't have a full character until you're till your 5th level. But new players, you really want to start them out at 5th level and have them choose a whole bunch of stuff that they don't already
understand.
have,
Right.
They don't understand. You know, so because it is designed for that slow level progression. So it's like, yes, there's room for classes, absolutely. Or there are room for classes as like a design thing you can do. There's in World of Darkness, being a vampire can be seen as just a class unto itself, as well as all the different clans, etc. There's absolutely room for all of that. But within that, there needs to be at least some sort of wiggle room, or quick progression in order to start showing the type of character you want to play. And that's my opinion on it. Is that class systems are not necessarily bad, but when you shoehorn people into them and necessarily restrict their choices, especially after like once you played like 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
especially if it's a home game and you're playing like for 6 hours, you probably got a little bit of a handle on the system and how it works.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
but you also
yeah.
you develop more depth when you are having those constraints on you, right? I mean, that's one of the things that to say that for instance, that you are going to be limited by this, going back to the barbarian having to do do the charisma check. For a fact that's, as I said, antics are going to ensue, but then it makes you, as that barbarian, say, okay, how am I going to go about this? How am I going to overcome this?
I totally disagree with that. Like
We're shocked.
in like I made a 5th edition D&D character
Yeah.
that was a barbarian. Well, it was a barbarian warlock who thought that they were a paladin.
Oh, but there's no
Because I
choice.
He was
Yeah.
a warden. He was a warden.
No. This is the one that in 5th edition.
Oh, in 5th. Okay,
right?
I'm sorry.
It's a
I think I'm talking about
5th level
the warden.
character, but that had like a 14 charisma. And so like because of the choices I made to make that character at 5th level, I managed to create one that was a very odd barbarian, a fucking weirdo barbarian that could be very like interesting and fun in a like a social situation.
But you realize what you just said was that you
were
gamed the
able to
system
do it.
because
Yeah.
you did it. No, hold on. You
in
did it at
5th level.
Exactly.
Yes.
My point being is that you basically set the odds to say where you could be able to skirt around it because you started off at a point where you could.
Yes, that's exactly it. That should be 1st level.
Yeah,
It should be 1st level where you can be at the point where you can make an interesting character that can do things outside of the bounds of that normal trope.
And I think
Because if I'm a barbarian that is not going to be like charismatic and is going to be stupid, I'm just going to be bored.
But again,
Then why
like,
did you
that's,
pick it?
Yeah, that's your personal preference. Like some people will like having that trope to lean on until they feel super comfortable, and then
Well,
But
no,
what if
going
I-
back to this.
what
Why
if I
would
want
you
to play?
pick it?
What if I anything I pick, I want to be a weirdo.
Okay.
If I
No,
pick
that's
a
fine.
wizard,
this isn't
I want to
about
be able.
you.
No.
This is
hold on.
about.
Hold on.
Well, so
No,
this is
I'm
all
not
about
arguing- no, no.
preference.
Yeah,
This is about
exactly.
preference, and these are my preferences,
Absolutely.
and there are other people who have these preferences too.
Okay,
Right.
absolutely. No. I'm
Like,
trying
we're going in
to
circles at
go
this.
deeper on this. I'm not
Again.
fighting you on this. So, okay, so you're saying that you wanted to play a barbarian, but it was heavily social, right?
Well, a whole bunch of different things. But
Okay,
yes.
but again, I'm going with what you said. So, why did you pick a barbarian specifically?
Because it can be a lot of fun to be in these social situations where also you're a fucking terrifying like barbarian creature.
Okay.
And you get to approach convincing people with nice words.
Sure.
While you have an axe the size of their head and you're 7 feet tall.
So you
How
wanted
fun
it-
is that? But you're not intimidating them.
But you wanted it both ways, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, you
And you
can't
need it.
because then you have detriments in other parts, of course. But
Yeah, because at 5th level, there's
At 5th level, you
effectiveness
have
that
that
you're
ability.
giving up for the barbarian
Yes.
side of it. Right,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Right.
yeah, the
The
barbarian
point
is
is-
not as good as barbarian as other barbarians.
No,
Right.
I'm what I'm trying to say is it's not unlike the idea of saying that Stu driving around in a Pinto saying, "Yep, I'm going to help you move." It's like, yeah, you can do that, but you are not going to be very good at it.
Right.
That's the point.
But I think that's
You
fine,
picked-
though.
No, hold on. You picked a barbarian class because you wanted to have barbarian traits, not a barbarian background, barbarian traits, but you also wanted to have also the social aspects of it. So you were trying to basically game the system to have it both ways.
No, because
You just said you wanted it both
okay.
ways.
Let me explain this to you. What I'm hearing you say is you think I want to be the best barbarian,
Nope.
and the best talker.
Nope.
And that is not true.
That's not what I said.
So having it both ways is being less effective in both of them for my own role-playing fun,
which is fine.
right?
But isn't
So-
that the choice you make in like every system like
But
this?
but you don't get to make that choice until you get further on, and that's the problem.
You
That
can't
is the
do it.
problem with
Yeah.
the
First
singular
level,
trope.
There's
That,
not a lot of difference
Right.
between fighters. There's
We
not a lot
understand
of
what you're
that's
saying.
the problem with the trope.
But so the whole. I'm not saying that. I think you're arguing a point that we're not making. Like, yes, it's a trope, and some people like that, and that's the point we're making. Is it's personal preference. Some people don't want to try and be weird at first. They don't want to try and bend the rules. They like that safety blanket of, I am something sort of familiar that I don't have to branch out from yet. Some people don't. And some people like want to jump in and do something super crazy the first time they've played RPGs. But there's also like I showed up for con on Friday night where I don't want to do weird things. I want to just murder things. I'm tired. I've been in traffic. I drove to Santa Monica. Like I want to.
Right.
So you just came from. Like where I don't really want to think about it that much. Now after a night of drinking and sleep, the next morning I'm okay. I want to make a weirdo character that I can really role play. It'll be great.
Oh.
But we have those times where we like don't want that, and I think that's okay.
No. Again, I'm not saying that you can't do it, but what I am saying is that you're trying to make Daredevil in a way where it's like, I'm a ninja, but I'm also blind, but I can still see. It's like, okay, you're kind of putting a lot of things in here to skirt around basic
Okay.
limitations.
No. Hold on. No. Let me say no. It isn't that you're skirting around to try and skirt around and game the system. It is that you're making character choices that allow you to do different things than the specific trope.
Then what in the barbarian would be that limitation?
Like you said before, bad social skills.
But you're intentionally making the character so you are skirting that.
Tappy's weird and he's contrived.
Yes, because I want to make a weirdo.
Yeah, he wants
Right.
to make. Yeah.
I want to make something that is different. That is specifically like any class I do, I want to make something different. And I think a lot of people like that. I don't think people want to make tropes all the time.
There's
Not all the
nothing
time,
wrong with
definitely
that.
not.
But what you're saying by your own admission, I'm wanting to make something weird means you want to do something that goes beyond what the limitations and the constraints of the character, right?
Well, no.
No, that is not.
That's not really what he's saying, though.
Yeah, that sounded like you want to do something more.
Go on.
And what I'm saying is I want to do something else.
Let me try rephrasing this, and then we can move on, please. I think what he's saying, his point is that if you have your class, okay, and here are the limitations of your class. Now, when I get up to 5th level, by that point I've picked a few feats, and I can up different stats, and I can move my character away from the archetype that it starts out at 1st level into a character that's more 3-dimensional, more different, breaking out of these pigeonholes that are the various archetypes.
Sure.
And you should be able to do that way back here,
Okay.
at 1st level.
Now, okay.
Yes.
Let me answer
Now, I'm
that.
not saying you have to.
Okay. I'm
But you should
not
be
arguing
able
with you
to.
about that. But what you're saying is that, okay, in order to have that, you want to have that at the first level?
I would think so.
Is that the right place for a new player to start?
Well, like I said, you don't have to, but have the option.
I think we were way off topic because the topic was not to debate about classes again. It's like the whole point is that there are some.
It's exactly what this is about.
He's
No.
defending.
Yeah, he's defending them, but it's not for us to go into the minutia of it. It's like, hey, some people like this. And yes, that's not something we can deny. Yes, some people like it.
Have you
Well,
met me?
if we're going to do that, we got a 5-minute show.
Yeah. Have you met me? I
There's only 2 emails, so I'm just
I know.
like,
I live through minutia.
I know you do.
I think somebody once described it as like splitting the hair down to the atom level.
Yes. No, we get it.
All right.
But, I mean, yeah. I just want to say, Mystery Cycle in the chat room had a good point. He says, a class is also a way to be relatively guaranteed that your character will have a role in the game. And depending on the edition, you can interpret the class in a fairly wide spectrum. So I think that's, for a new player too, if everyone's in those tropes, as like, even if it's not your favorite thing, it does kind of guarantee that you will have a role in combat. Like something to do, you'll know what to do.
I was done.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I was done a long time ago, so you can all fucking just deal with it, because I had to put up
were?
with it. Yeah.
Parting.
I can be done first, Happy. It happens sometimes. All right. Let's continue. All right.
Yeah, high five.
Parting with game stuff from Jim Toe.
It's turtles
Hey,
and dicks
crew.
all the way
Turtles
down.
and dicks.
Nearly-
Dick turtles. It's Dick Turtles all the way down. Come on, somebody make that a shirt.
Nearly 3 years ago, I emailed in talking about the surprise pregnancy my wife was busy dealing with and my uncertainty about my gaming future. It was a surprise because we were told by the doctors that we shouldn't plan on kids. They didn't say impossible, but it was a quote unquote extremely unlikely. So until that day came, they said you're gonna have a baby. So until that day came when they said you're gonna have a baby, we spent money like 2 well-employed adults who are never going to have kids.
Yeah.
We were not irresponsible. We always paid our bills. We had significant ongoing monies each month. Outgoing monies each month.
What?
And man, oh man, I bought anything and everything I wanted RPG-wise. Mostly it was Call of Cthulhu stuff. When working sent me to California or Boston or Atlanta, I looked up a game store after game store and bought every Call of Cthulhu product I could get my hands on. I had nearly 3 shelves of Call of Cthulhu products, a large portion of it out of print because Charlie Crank was a shitty businessman, and thank fucking cripes, he no longer works at Chaosium.
I actually love the fact that they said fucking, but then cripes.
Yeah.
Right.
Fucking criminy Jeebus.
Shit, fucking Jiminy Cricket.
Sorry for the mini rant, but seriously, fuck that guy.
Gosh fucking darn.
Golly.
But also, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of other
Figuratively.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of other stuff as well, but Cthulhu was my jam when it came to RPG products. And then it's, hey, you guys are going to have a baby in 3 months. Oh. And that child needs to be paid for. Cribs, formula, clothes, diapers, daycare, and a million other things.
A whole different sanity roll.
And because I needed so much so fast, I sold 99% of my RPG.
Oh.
I made a ton of money on it, far more than I spent, but it's gone. And then I just forgot about it while we got ready for the kid. I've barely given it a second thought.
Best thing to do.
Given it a second thought since then. But now my boy's 2.5, and we're about 10 days from moving to a much bigger place. A few nights ago, I was packing up the few RPG books I have left myself, and let myself buy.
I think I
in the
still
last
have your
few
Savage
years.
Worlds book here, by the way.
I'm laughing at the fact that basically this is proving that, everyone's a smoker when the chips are down. And everyone's a gamer. Regardless of what how many books you have. All right, please go ahead.
A few nights ago, I was packing up the few RPG books I have let myself buy in the past few years. A pathetically small number of books that took up about half a box. I was saddened about my Call of Cthulhu collection. I've never regretted selling it. It paid for all the Brady furniture we needed, plus a bunch more stuff. But still, I miss rifling through all those old adventures. And after we move, I'll again have the room I needed to house a collection again. I'll start looking out for those books I had before, but I know there are some I will never get back short of murder or bank robberies to pay for them.
Or eBay.
They are the ones that got away.
Because you can find someone else who's got a kid coming.
So I ask you, Happy Jacks, what are your RPG products that are no longer with you that you miss? And why are they gone? Alien abduction? Sold it? Your ex set it on fire? Jim 2. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. Mark Twain.
Neither of them do you want to actually launch in your ass.
Right. I abandoned an enormous number of RPG books when after my first divorce, when I sold my first house, I left almost, I think I left all of my RPG collection there. Wow. That included all of my original AD&D books. That included the first edition and second printing of the Traveler Black Box books. That included probably 35 or 40 GURPS books. Copy of Champions, second edition. Oh, I can't even begin to. I mean, it was so much stuff because I had a hall closet that had double doors. The whole top shelf was all gaming books, and the whole second shelf was Magic cards, including Magic cards. The first printing of them, they had the different outside thing, all those. Yeah.
Well, good thing those don't have value.
Right. Yeah, I heard. So yeah, a lot of
No,
stuff.
you're fine. It's a secret. You couldn't have bought a new car with those.
No.
I don't know. For a long time, everything I owned could fit in my Mitsubishi subcompact.
Right.
So I didn't really have a lot of game books until I moved into the house that my wife and I bought. So then I started buying a buck ton of books.
Right.
Because the amount of books you have is proportional to the amount of space you have to put them in.
Yes.
Yes.
It is known. So yeah, when I was in high school, I had a fuck ton of Riffs books. But Riffs books are a dime a dozen now.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, I managed to get that whole collection back just for nostalgia's sake. Not that I played Rifts since then, but it's good to have those old books because I got it for like 30 cents, which was great.
I realized the book that I had lost over the years that if I could have was actually the GURPS. Say it.
Yeah.
GURPS version of The Prisoner.
Oh, I had that. I had that.
What? That's a thing?
Oh yeah.
See?
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that'd be amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a dark maroon cover with a gold embossed
The
penny
bicycle,
farthing
yeah.
bicycle.
Now, I will say I 100% prefer PDFs and a ton of stuff. I can search them, man. I can fucking search for a word. It's awesome instead of flipping through.
That's true.
There are many things I like better about PDFs, and so they're available on DriveThruRPG. A lot of them, like some of the really random ass weird stuff, won't be. But I mean, most of it, if they got the rights to it, people are putting out PDFs of it. So. I mean, that's a really easy way to get stuff.
And there is more of a resurgence of bringing back the old classics. It's not an RPG, but I was really excited when I heard they were bringing back the old Dune board game.
Oh,
the
really?
old one, yeah,
Right.
the Avalon Hill one.
Oh man, I have on PDF the old Dune role-playing game,
Oh,
which
my
is
God.
a clusterfuck.
I bet.
Oh my god. But yeah, that's available. You can get that.
The point being is that now the industry's at a point where you have a pretty good chance of being able to pull back the ones that you've lost. But as you point out, it's not going to be cheap if you go through
If you're looking for a
certain
book.
ways. But
Yeah.
Right.
you got to determine how much you want it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jim Toe.
Yep.
Is Detective Noir a playable genre from Joe?
Oh, sure, I'll go.
Go.
Hey, all my jackers. Joe Crack here from the various forums, Discord, Twitter, Ek.
This here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Now hold on to your hats and gloves. Sorry. That's a Disney joke for those of you out of Never mind. Regarding a recent...
hold on. There's the Star Wars Land. There's like a
I have tickets.
waiting list to be able to. They never used to do that.
It's because it's not open yet. It's a waiting list to go do the previews.
If you get
It's a soft
line
opening.
now,
Okay.
you might get into one of the rides.
Dude, a friend of mine.
I'll see it in a decade.
A friend of mine did the
Same
because he
thing.
works for Disney. Got to go on the Millennium Falcon ride.
Yeah.
And it's like there are 4 seats, and there's like a pilot and like a co-pilot and an engineer, and like the pilot can do it up and down, and the co-pilot goes left and right, and then like the engineer you have to like push it in order to like do damage control and stuff while you're flying. It's awesome.
So, and we apologize. We'll get to this in a second. So, a couple of years ago, Disney actually did an ARG game, and in the park where you would have to. Basically, what would happen is that if you were part, I believe, of their podcast, if you were a follower or whatever, or a particular group of one of their Disney fan clubs, you could get you could get a setup for your phone, and you would download the app, and then if you were able to take the phone to Disneyland, it was really where you would be able to go to certain places in the park, and it would lead you with clues to the other things. Like if you went to the Esmeralda fortune teller in Main Street, and you used the app, which would read because you were near it with some radio thing, it would actually give you a special card that you wouldn't normally, which would lead you throughout the park. And actually, at the very end of it, you could go to the front of the line at Haunted Mansion. And the reason I'm even bringing this up is because people were going, well, why did they do this? Because it was very quiet, but it was a test run. From what I've heard, they're planning to do that with the Disney park section as well, where basically you will have a character in the Disney park for, Star Wars, and that it will follow you through the entirety of the rides. And
Oh, no kidding.
They're making it a LARP.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
They're totally doing it. So,
They're
and I
LARPing
think,
it up.
So they believe that was the test run, and it was just insane how far they went with it. But now you can see why Disney is really sharp in thinking two things.
I know.
ahead.
I remember Bill talking about when Disney Infinity was about being able to take the figurines out to certain places at Disneyland, and like if you took it to a certain place, that would unlock a power up. I don't know if they ever actually did that, though. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I apologize. You want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, there's not that much. So, hey, all my jackers, Joe Crack here from the various forums, Discord, Twitter, etc. Regarding now I'm doing it. Regarding a recent discussion about finding clues in detective stories, I was wondering what the group's thoughts on detective games, and more specifically, noir fiction games were. In my own experience, and that of my friends, noir games are mostly unplayable in most systems. Maybe fiasco, but most RPGs don't blend well to the style of noir fiction. Opinion on that. Characters in noir are often antisocial loners that don't accomplish anything on their own and stumble, get beat up on their way to the end, which sometimes includes their death.
Sounds like Jon Snow.
Yeah. But he'll come back.
No,
More
but
often
then he wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But more often than not, they are powerless to everything going on around them.
But still win.
But still win and get named king.
And get declared king.
Because and sleep with their aunt. Because of these
That's right,
traits,
technically.
and the often communal cooperative aspects of many RPGs, we just have trouble seeing how to tell those types of stories. What are all of your thoughts on attempting this type of fiction in gaming?
Well, shameless plug. We have one of these games coming up very soon. Max is going to be running City of Mist, which
Yeah.
is going to be a noir game.
That's well, City Mist is built to be a
Yeah,
noir game,
yeah.
like a detective noir game. It's really specific for it.
What's the system itself?
It's a PBTA system, but it has like built into it like the ideas of clues and actually spending clues to get information and stuff like that while you do it.
Sure.
But it's also built around like this idea that there's a city that's surrounded by mist that you don't know what's out of it, etc.
Hence City
of Mist. But also there's some sort of like legend that you embody.
Okay.
And sometimes you become more or less of that legend based on the things that you do.
Okay.
It's a very interesting system. It has a system for point values kind of based on like the old vampire LARP sort of thing, where you have like descriptions of like what you can do, and the more of those descriptions are applicable to the thing you're doing, the more bonuses you have to do it.
I have always been a big champion of the gumshoe system, and not just for gumshoe or bubble gumshoe, but also Fear Itself and Night's Black Agents, where they intend it to be a noir kind of system where it's clue based, but instead of it being, well, you're rolling dice to say whether or not you find out the information, you basically pay for the fact that, okay, I am going to get this, but it's going to cost me. And the amount of that cost is what is a variable. So that allows you to continue with the story as opposed to, just missing a piece of information that's just going to F everything up. I really like Fear Itself. I think it's an underused system. Obviously, most people like Night's Black Agents because who doesn't like being the X-Files versus vampires? But I like it, and I've tried it a couple of times. The only time I've done it recently, actually, was with Chris Gray and Proby Tim, your hat. And we were able to do that using Fear Itself, but in the situation where we were searching for clues in a mystery where they were having difficulty, they didn't know what was going on, people got beat up, Tim did, and all sorts of things to that nature. So I really like that. And also Trail of Cthulhu, and that works very nicely.
I have Trail of Cthulhu. That's a
Ken
fantastic
Hite.
book.
Yeah. I believe it's Ken Hite.
It's Ken Hite, yeah.
Yeah. Now, that being said, also I don't run investigative noir investigative games.
Right.
I tried a few times and I suck at it.
Now, specifically to
There's
his
a vampire
question,
game with clues in there, man.
Yeah, but I'm not running that game.
I know that's true.
I think
I'll play it, but I won't run it.
Trying to get it, Dave.
noir is a tonal thing.
Yeah.
And what he's describing is basically sort of like the trope of the anti-hero in that kind of a novel or in that kind of a movie.
Sure.
And that kind of a character is always going to be problematic in a role-playing game. The guy who's the loner who, loners are
Hard.
terrible in role-playing games.
Yeah.
What about your family? I have no family.
I have no family. Right. And
That's what I do.
And it's always going to be a challenge to have that kind of a character in the game. But I think you can still get that tone, I think, without having that character archetype,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think.
Especially if there are other kind of tropes
Yeah.
that you can rely upon in there. Even things like lighting, like hard lighting across people's eyes and stuff like that, or things being dark.
Well, here's a question for the table. Do you consider, like, the Cthulhu type of RPG to be a noir?
1920s.
Well, basically, don't accomplish anything on their own, get beat up on the way their end, includes their death. More often than not, they are powerless to
Yeah.
everything going on around
Yeah,
them.
and
Yeah.
you can. I think there are a lot of people out there running successful Call of Cthulhu games. So yeah, but I mean, he's really kind of talking about the archetype detective character,
Yeah.
and I think he's right about that. I think
Yeah.
that having that kind of a character in a game is always going to be okay. In the sidebar because you're.
You can't play Chinatown with 5 people, right? You have one guy who's what's his name? Jack. I don't know.
Jake Giddings.
Jake. Yeah. And so, like, you have one person playing Jake, and everybody else is going, "Hey, Jake, want to do something?" Nah. Where's Jake? I don't know. He's fucked off somewhere. All right, well, I guess we're gonna go to town hall.
Yeah, I think you have the same problem with that kind of thing as you'd get, like when you, going back to Vampire, when you have a prince. Like it all has to kind of revolve around that one person and what they decide to do, which can be really problematic in a
Yes.
group.
Would you consider Dresden Files to be a noir?
I think
No,
it's
I don't
urban
think so.
fantasy.
I don't think I would.
Yeah,
call,
I
I
think
don't think I
it's-
would.
Well,
call it.
It can be
I don't
investigative.
think
I don't think it has the tone
Yeah.
for it. I mean, there have been some books, yes, because there's a couple of the books where he's murmuring to himself and he's like going like really off the deep end when one of the werewolves is like,
Yeah.
Are you all right? Because let me tell you what everyone thinks about you right now.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I mean, I think it has its moments where it's kind of like that.
Okay.
But he always comes back to needing and wanting to be part of the group.
Yes.
He has moments where he becomes a loner to protect himself, to protect other people, but is out of caring for other people most of the time.
But he still won't miss game night.
No.
They start playing the Dresden Files version of D&D at some
Well,
point.
I was just thinking about he going after the person he cares for, and
Oh, yeah.
that's very noir. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
Every
Absolutely.
episode of and obviously it was a book series, but of the Mike Hammer series is always Mike Hammer has a best friend who dies in every
Right.
episode. So where you realize you shouldn't be a friend of Mike Hammer because you're going to die, and your friendship means he's going to basically solve your murder.
Yeah.
That's the story. That's
You
it.
will be put in a refrigerator at some point. It'll be fine.
No, I mean, that's true of anybody.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, you want to split this cab fare? No. Sorry.
It's just when are you going to? I mean, that's
Right, exactly.
Hey, Tapster, I believe this one's yours.
Happy gets to read the sweet one.
Oh, this is apropos.
That's why I said you should do it.
10-year anniversary from Talon.
Oh.
Hello, Happy Jacks, and a very nice hello.
Don't give her last name.
My name is Talon, and my partner Daniel is a longtime listener of your podcasts. He's emailed into you before and was dubbed Aussie Dan.
Yay!
In case you might remember him.
I thought
do.
that was Sassy Dan at first.
Sassy Dan.
Sorry, I'll put him back on. All right.
Put the glasses on.
All right, fine.
Sassy Dan.
Okay.
Now, it's coming up on our 10-year anniversary, and I wanted to plan something really special for him because he has steadfastly supported me through all my tertiary education.
Aw.
And as a result, I was one of the lucky few PhD candidates to get a full scholarship this year. That's fucking amazing. Yeah. Bravo. Wow. Crap. And I never could have gotten this far without him. Seeing as I, for the first time in my adult life, have disposable income, I decided that I would get him a gift that represents, or is, what I wanted to get him at our anniversary at the time, but simply couldn't afford to between living expenses and raising our son. I know how much he loves your content, and PhD candidate and raising a kid.
Yeah. Amazing.
Wow.
Yep.
So I'm gonna give it I know how much he loves your content and have already purchased one of your T-shirts for him, but was wondering.
Yay.
Have you bought the It's Dick Turtles All the Way Down yet?
Or A Town Called Malice on Kickstarter. What?
But was wondering if you guys might be able to give him some quick props for being the best partner any scatterbrained lady could ask for.
Aw.
I know this isn't a proper RPG question thing, etc., but it would mean a lot to the love of my life. Super sorry to bother you with something so trivial.
Not trivial, actually.
No, not at all.
No.
Thank you for your time. Regards, Talon.
That's so awesome.
Happy anniversary to the tune of Happy Birthday to Talon and Daniel. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, Talon and Daniel. Happy anniversary to you.
I think
You forgot how to sing.
Yeah.
You forgot how to sing. I mean,
Good thing
not
we'll
gonna
be
here,
doing
it'll
that
fine.
anytime soon.
I also would like to point
Turn the
out.
mic down. Just play it. Mouth it.
I don't know what things you guys are doing.
His mic's not even plugged
Give
in.
me a C. A bouncing C.
I also think it's adorable that your 10th anniversary is the same year as the show's 10th anniversary.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Cute. It's just meant to be. That is super adorable.
So there we sang for him. So
Keep helping.
hopefully this is a surprise when he listens to the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
I left his name out of the preview, and I'll leave it out of the show notes so he won't know it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll know in the beginning of the show and said, in this episode.
Thank you for being a mensch. That's actually very important. And what you're doing is that you're showing that the RPG community is not just I'm in the basement with my folks, and it shows that you're a responsible human being and that you care about the people you love and you take effort to it, and that's awesome. Thank you for being you.
Yeah. Keep supporting your scatterbrain lady. We really support it. We really need it.
Yeah.
We love it.
And how?
All right. I'm ending it.
All right.
You ended it?
Thank you for joining us for season 24, episode 8 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Tappy.
And I'm Dave77.
And we'll see you next week. If coming to the Renaissance Pleasure Fair, it's going on for 3 more weekends.
Hey, what's the name of the group?
The Poxy Boggards.
Do you have a
Rogues
Patreon?
Stage. No. Yeah, we do. Patreon.com/Boggards.
For $20 a month, you can see naked photos of the band, and for $40 a month, you won't.
Right. Good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Right? All right. So, yeah, if you want to come out to the Renaissance Fair, come out to the Renaissance Fair. We got a game on Sunday. What's on Sunday?
Demigods is running right now.
Demigods on Sunday.
They're having a super amazing sub because Agree's not going to be there.
Oh, you're subbing?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll leave with a song.
MuckyFunStudios.com.
And ChackerCon.
Kickstarter.
And Kickstarter for CA. I said CA, Dave.
You know what I am. Yeah, no, not that bastard. I'll see you in hell, Dave.
Mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter. You're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
So now, brave boys, we're on the march and up to Portugal and Spain. Drums are beating, banners flying, the devils are home will come tonight. Oh, love, fare thee well. With me tither-yaddle doodle dum-a-da, me tither-yaddle doodle dum-a-da. Me rakes fall to the laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar. Oh,
Whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter. You're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
Well, the French are fighting boldly, men are dying hot and coldly. Give every man his flask of powder, his firelock on his shoulder. Oh, love, fare thee well. With me tiddery-addle-diddle-dum-a-da, me tiddery-addle-diddle-dum-a-da. Me writes full to a laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar.
Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter. You're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
Says the mother, don't you wrong me, don't take me daughter from me, for if you do I will torment you, and after death me ghost will haunt you. Love, fare thee well. With me tither-idle-doodle-dum-a-da, me tither-idle-doodle-dum-a-da, me right full to a laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar.
Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter. You're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober. Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter. You're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.